What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and today we're going to be talking about what in the heck are AEW and Impact Wrestling doing. I'm having a hard time figuring this out, but maybe if we lay it all out and talk it out, we might come up with something. So, to put this out there, if you haven't watched Impact Sacrifice, I'm going to be talking about it. So if you watch this video anymore, you're going to have it spoiled. So if you haven't yet, you want to watch it, pause this video, watch it, then come on back, and we can talk about things. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time recapping things because you know pretty much what happened. Don Callis and Kenny Omega came out with the Good Brothers on Wednesday night and made fun of Eddie Kingston and John Moxley, and that all blew up in the ring and ended up with Christian Cage standing there with Kenny Omega. Now, fast forward to Saturday, we know that the winner of Moose and Rich Swainn is going to face Kenny Omega at Rebellion. So what did we have? Well, first, before all that happened, we had a tag team titles match. And remember, the Impact tag team titles are the Good Brothers. The Good Brothers actually lost to FinJuice. Now, FinJuice, if you're keeping track and keeping score of things, they are from New Japan Wrestling. And so now you've got New Japan Wrestling holding Impact titles. And you have Rich Swainn later on in the evening defeating Moose and becoming the Impact United champion. So he has pretty much the TNA belt, the Impact belt. I would imagine that we'll probably see something in the next couple weeks that will combine them back together. They might even continue to use the TNA name. I think it would be fantastic if they took and made a new belt out of this. I think it would be a great opportunity for them. Both belts are okay. I like the TNA belt a little bit better. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to that. But the Impact belt isn't bad. I just hope that they don't just drop the TNA belt and just keep the TNA belt. Listen, I know what happened, and they had to figure something out with the whole, Tessa thing and her not being able to wrestle because of COVID and all that. But I think it's a real good opportunity for them to kind of revamp things. Regardless, it's going to be Rich Swainn versus Kenny Omega at Rebellion. Now, what do I think is going to happen here? Really, I think Impact is going to have all of their titles, if they don't watch, going to have their tag titles and their heavyweight champion are going to be taken over by different promotions. And if you ask me, I think that this is a good thing. Listen, this partnership between the three companies has really opened up wrestling for us, and with Tony Khan being the forbidden door that he is, it's actually been really refreshing and nice and cool to see all of these things that are happening. I was actually quite surprised that FinJuice got the belts. I think this is kind of a neat spin. I really don't know where they're going with that in Impact. I don't know if they'll hold them through Rebellion, if they'll have another match at Rebellion and, the Good Brothers get it back. I think that what's going to happen is that the Young Bucks are going to lose the titles to Ray Phoenix and Pac. And this just has so many different offshoots and so many intertwined storylines that it's just crazy. But anyways, I think the Young Bucks are going to lose it because I think they're going to have a big match with the Good Brothers. I think things are going to finally come to head. They can't play the fence anymore. I think you're going to have the Good Brothers who are going to end up being, right now, they're heel leaning. And you've got the Young Bucks who are baby faces, but yet they haven't come to a head with things yet. I think it's going to come to a head here soon, and I think that you're going to get that with it. Now, that being said, I think we're going to have this big match between the two. I kind of think that that's where it's going to go, and that you're going to have the titles off of both teams when they do this. So then the match and what's at stake, what's going on, can stand on its own. And you don't have to worry about, the titles getting in the way of things. However, they might get the titles back, and you might see something different with that. But I doubt that that's what's going to happen. So as we look at this, we've got Kenny Omega the question is what are they going to do with the AEW Championship now? Now, we know that probably Moxley's going to be going off of TV and off of things for a while because he's going to be having the baby that's coming, and that kind of seems to make sense. But how in the world is Christian Cage going to play into all this? It looks like he's coming in and they're going to throw him right in the whole title mix. I don't know, or maybe they were just using that as an opportunity to really, make an impact with him, that he's going to be coming for that belt, and not just yet, but maybe here in the future, here soon. And, I think we're definitely going to be getting Kenny, the belt collector. He's going to be, collecting up these belts, and they're going to be doing a lot of this stuff. It's really interesting how all of this stuff is intertwined. I think it's a good thing for Impact that they did make it Rich Swann instead of Moose. Now, they kind of keep some of the stuff with Moose intact, kind of like this loose gun, loose cannon, and making kind of poor decisions because he's mad and kind of this he's seeing red. And so Rich Swann was able to take advantage of that, and that's how he won the belts on Saturday. And I think that that's not going to play into what's going to happen at Rebellion. Kenny Omega is going to win. It's going to be nefarious, but he's going to win. And he needs to beat Rich Swann. And again, remember, he's already pinned Rich Swann. You need to protect your champions. And so with Impact not protecting their champions, it really shows me that he is going to drop the belts. And I think he's the perfect one to drop the belts. Listen, he's been a mediocre transitional champion at best. Rich Swann does nothing for me. I love what they've been doing with Moose. I like how they do Moose. I think Moose sits properly where he's at. He's kind of like Bobby Lashley, but where Bobby Lashley is way overpowered. They show the weaknesses and always seeing red. Whereas with Bobby Lashley, there isn't that. He doesn't ever have any consequences for that with it. So I like the way that they did the things with Moose, and that Rich Swann is just, since I've been watching Impact, and I haven't been watching it for very long. I've only been watching it since Kenny Omega showed up. So I'm not a longtime Impact wrestling fan. I apologize if you don't like my take on Rich Swann. I think he needs to be down in the X division. He's not really heavyweight champion material for me. He's not a good promo cutter. I thought that the whole thing with him and Tommy Dreamer was absolutely terrible. The whole storyline behind that is Tommy's a good guy. It's his 50th birthday, and let's give him a title shot for his birthday. I'm like, you know what? My birthday was yesterday, so might as well just give me. I should have had a title shot yesterday because that's how we do it in Impact. It was just bad. It wasn't good. And I think it's a good way to take the belt off of Rich Swann, have him move on, and then when Impact's ready to, be done with this whole, Kenny the title collector angle in line, that they can really bring up some people, to who could, really bring some prestige back to the title. I thought it was good with Moose. He brought really strength and just beating the snot out of people. And, he might be the one to take the title back when they have Kenny give it up. But I like Kenny to get it. I'd like to see, 3 belts hanging off of Kenny. That would be pretty cool. I don't know how he'll be able to get anything from New Japan, and maybe this might just be like a 2 belts Kenny type of a thing. I don't know. We'll see with it. But what I really do like about this is, and this is what I'm going to say to, AEW storylines and some of Impact's, you just don't know where this stuff is going to go. There's a lot of different, there's a lot of different angles, different ways that you can look at this when you break it down. And a lot of different, moving pieces that are involved in this and that. And so for me, I really like it because you can kind of sit down and speculate things and look at things. And 2, they leave the element of surprise in there. And that is huge for me. When they surprise me with little things here, or, I don't know the outcome of what something is going to be. It's, I get to see it unfold in front of my eyes, and I think that that's good. And, I think that Impact's done a really, really good job with, their storylines and what they've done. The product, I will say, has kind of, ratcheted down a little bit for me. But over, the past couple of weeks, they've been bringing it back up. So I think that it's been, better. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to do with FinJuice, how they're going to use these guys, if they're going to make them just kind of, this is just part of the whole feud with the Good Brothers, to where they're going to take the titles off the Good Brothers for a couple weeks or something, just to progress this thing on further and then get the titles back on them. The idea is to get them to Rebellion and give them something to do, while also making, their relationship with New Japan look good and keep that kind of rolling and going. I think that that's kind of a neat thing. And I think too, with FinJuice kind of outsmarting the Good Brothers, it might help them to find, their inner meanness again, or whatever. I don't know. I don't got a really good term for it, but to bring that out in them again, I think is really good. And it also too, here with the Young Bucks, I think right now the Young Bucks have had the belts for a little bit of time, not a very long time. But I think that they're starting to showcase a lot more of the tag team talents in AEW, and I think that it could make it good for the Young Bucks to kind of transition into the main storyline and not necessarily bring the belts with them. I think they could really let the belts kind of same thing with Impact. If you let the belts sit out there with that, and let the belts and the prestige that come with the belts build up these other tag teams, and so you've got these teams that are fighting for the belts, as opposed to, the Young Bucks are a big name, the Good Brothers are a big name. We know that, so that if they collide, they come together. We know what's at stake, the odds. It's got that star power for the two promotions, whereas bringing in some of these other matches and against these other teams wouldn't bring the star power, because they're just not stars. So if you put the titles in there, that goes to build up them with it. So I like that with it. I'm really curious to see how this whole title collector thing is going to go with, Kenny and Don Callis. I'm wondering, if they're going to show up on Impact this week. That's one thing I'm really curious about is how this thing is going to progress. Are they going to unify those belts? Make it just one belt, or are they going to leave it as two? What are they going to do? I'm really curious about that. Where do they go from here with Moose? Do they take Moose off of TV for a little while? Rich Swann has got to get better in his promo game. If he is going to be a part of this, he's got to step up his game. And he needs to really step up. He's okay in ring, but he's not really flashy. He can do some moves here and there, and I know there'll probably be you guys out there that are going to give me heck for saying that about Rich Swann, but I do agree with some of you guys out there. He's kind of more of a Rich Yawn than a Rich Swann for me. I've just not been a fan of his. I would have rather the belts go on Moose, but if Kenny Omega is going to be winning the belts here, I think that Rich Swann is the best guy to drop the belts and not Moose. I think they did a clean win for Rich Swann, but it was the best way to do a clean win without taking the power and the monster aspect away from Moose. They allowed to keep that intact, and I think that you can bring him back, and have him talk about how, that loss really has him focused, and now he's back on a tear again with that. And I think it also gives an opportunity. They've really been doing this whole thing with, and poorly, but building up Myers and Cardona and Eddie Edwards, and I think that those three guys could really get themselves into the title picture there once you get the belts back from Kenny, and I think that they could really do some stuff there, with that. So as I look at things, there's a lot that could happen, and then you throw in Christian Cage after Kenny goes through and does this whole belt collecting thing. You bring in Christian, you get him acclimated, get some matches in him, get some stuff, let him come, quote unquote, come up the card some, and then throw him in the title match and put the belt on him for a little while. I think that you could do that easily, and it would make sense. You could have him work with some talent, kind of like with what Matt Hardy's been doing, work with some younger talent, build them up, build him up as well, and then, put him in that title run. I think that would be good, and maybe he be the guy to take the belt off of the belt collector. So I think that's where things are sitting for me right now. A lot to process and a lot of intertwined storylines. AEW Impact Wrestling, you guys are doing a fantastic job. I've just been glued to the screen. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to get out of Elevation. It's looking like Elevation is going to be this show that is going to kind of showcase the younger talent, kind of the unestablished talent, give them a place to shine, and maybe tell us a little bit more about them. I'm interested to see how Paul White does on the mic. I've not really, heard him in commentary with that. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do, and also get introduced to some new wrestlers tonight with that. So I'll check that out and maybe give you guys my thoughts coming up here. But like always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Leave them for me down in the comment section. I'd love to continue to have the conversation on down there. Give me your thoughts. You guys come up with some awesome stuff, a lot of times a lot better than what I could ever come up with, so I love hearing them. I love discussing them with you, and so let's continue that on down there. All right, guys, I know that you're busy. I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.